Hey, what's up? I'm Peter and I'm so happy to be with you here again today. And today we're going to speak about the typical 5 phases of a corporate video production. Usually every single video production, and especially corporate video productions, are structured in 5 different distinct phases. The first phase is always the negotiation phase. The second phase is a pre-production phase, followed by the actual production phase, then the post-production phase, and finally the validation or publication phase. Quite often I'm contacted by companies, by potential clients, but they don't really know what the different phases of a corporate video production is. So this really should help them to understand how the video production will be structured, where they need to be involved, what they can expect, and how in general I am working as well. This is a structure that I have been using over the last 20 years in my career as a professional filmmaker for corporate films. So let's dive into it right away now with phase number 1, which is the negotiation phase. This is typically the phase where we need to get to know each other. It's a very important phase because typically I don't know the client right from the beginning and the client doesn't know me. So it's a phase where we need to see, are we really on the same wavelength, which is extremely important because a video production is something which is pretty personal, I would say. That means if you're not on the same wavelength, if you feel that there is something that doesn't work, it's like playing in a band. It will not work on the long run. Most of the time, it works quite well right from the beginning, but it's also a get to know each other phase. That means that before even I call or speak with a client, I try to just get as many information as possible about the client, about their activities. That means I go on the website, I see if there is a YouTube channel, I look what kind of videos have been produced already in the past to get a feeling really for what the client might expect also from me. And if I can really live up to these expectations and maybe also to see what has been good or what has been not so good in the past so that I can also emphasize on these things during the first call. I always try, before even establishing the quote, I try to either arrange a meeting in person, which is absolutely preferable, or to have at least a video call with the client so that we really can discuss face to face the expectations of the client, what the client would like to have, and what I am able to also propose to the client. I take all these ideas and I kind of prepare for the client and together with the client this first concept of the video. And here we put on the different elements. I see what is possible, what is not possible. Very important, by the way, also to say this is not possible because the client might have ideas and expectations that you cannot live up to. And it's very, very important always to say at this moment, no, this I cannot do because either it doesn't fit in any imaginable budget or simply I don't have the skills to do it. As soon as we have gathered all this information and I feel that I'm ready to establish the quote, then I'm going to work on the quote. I'm submitting the quote also to the client. And very important here also to say the quote itself is not written in stone. There is always room for negotiation. So a client always can come back and say, hey, it doesn't fit our budget. Can we do something about it? Most of the time, yes, of course we can do something. Because instead of maybe filming with 2 cameras or 3 cameras, we might be filming only with 1 camera. Maybe the animation is too expensive. We can scale it down and do something which is less expensive just to better fit the budget of the client. So there's always a margin for negotiation and it's always a good idea just to discuss the quote. Phase 2 is the pre-production phase. In this phase, I collect all the necessary information. And that means really have a structured approach to all the information that I need, asking the client to provide really every single detail from the content, from information, from CI, visual elements, and whatever you might need to have in the video. And then I'm working on it, I'm crushing it, I'm trying to really put it into the language of the film, and I resubmit it to the client for discussion, so the client can really go through it. And this is really the phase also where we discuss quite a lot. We discuss, we make phone calls, we eventually meet again in person also, just to discuss whether this lives up to the expectations of the client. As soon as we are planning the shooting, of course, this has to be planned in a very meticulous way because typically both from the client side but also from our side, there might be a lot of people involved also. And this is absolutely so crucial that everybody knows exactly when what has to be done so that there are really no surprises during this pre-production phase and then also later on during the production phase. And then comes phase number 3, the production phase. That's for me always the most fun part, I must say, because here I'm on site, I'm filming, I take the camera, we are on site with our team and we are just actually making it happen. And it's a crucial phase because here you need to deliver. You need to film in the best way possible. You need to make sure that the people in front of the camera for interviews, that they look great, that they sound great, that you have all the B-rolls that you need. And there is really not a possibility to usually go back again and to say, hey, we made a mistake, we need to film this again. But if you don't have any other possibility, well, yeah, sometimes I even do it. It happened to me in my career a couple of times that I had to say, I'm not happy with what I'm filmed. Sorry, client, I'm going to get back. I want to do it better. And usually the feedback from the client was always very overwhelmingly positive because they had the feeling, hey, he's really taking care and he's not just leaving it to chance. So the typical shooting on site is very well planned. So everybody who's involved knows exactly what to do at what moment. So we come to the client has prepared from their side, hopefully everything. The people for the interviews are briefed typically. We know that the locations are cleaned up, they're tidy, etc. All these things are quite important also. And we plan this, of course, beforehand. So there should not be any surprises when we arrive at the client. At the end of the day, you might be quite exhausted also from the client side, but it's really the cool moment where you just create also this bond with the client, where you work very closely to the client, you speak with the client, you learn a lot about the client in addition, and that's something, it's a moment that I personally totally enjoy. Phase number 4, the post-production. The post-production is really where everything is put together. It's like a puzzle where you take the different pieces, you put them together, and all of a sudden you get a picture which looks simply so great and stunning. For me, the post-production phase is always a little bit like magic. You hopefully have material that you have filmed which looks great. You have animations, you have the visual elements, you have the music, and everything all of a sudden crystallizes to a product where you say, hey, that looks really great. I love what we are doing here. And this is always this moment that comes at some point for almost every single video production. We have this click moment where I say, oh yeah, now it becomes really great. But this rough cut phase is so important for me because I submit the first version of the final product to the client. And then the client has the possibility also to provide me feedback, to say, oh yeah, I like this. Oh no, I would like to do it differently. With this interview, can we review, for example, the rough version of the interview and to see whether we have some other parts which might be better suitable? Oh, we would like to have this visual elements on a different place. Can we just change this cut in here and there? So it's really kind of a back and forth between the client and us, just to make sure that we are totally on the same page during this post-production phase. That's why we do the rough cut. And the rough cut is typically also not only one version that we submit, but it can be 3, 4, 5 versions depending on the cut, until we come to the point where we say, okay, now the whole structure is just as the clients would like to have it. And hopefully the client is also impressed by our work. And then we enter the second phase, which is the final cut phase, where everything will be polished. Everything will be done in the right way. The music mix will be made, color grading, all the visual elements will be correctly positioned so that we have the feeling, okay, now this is really a final version. Again, this final cut will be sent over to the client for feedback. So as you can see, it's very important always to provide really every single step of the production to the client so that the client can get back also to provide feedback to us. Phase 5, which is the validation and publication phase. And that's a phase where, of course, the great moment comes. The client uploads it to his social media channels, to the website, uses it during an event or whatever simply. And that's a moment where you can shine, you can relax, and you can really fully enjoy also about the work that you have done. And hopefully the client is also happy about what you have been doing. So these are the typical 5 phases that you run through during a corporate video production. If you like this video, I would be more than happy, of course, if you would subscribe to our channel. And I hope to see you for the next video that I'm going to produce. See you very soon. Stay healthy, stay safe, and be good.